So this is going to kick off a series of videos which are going to be a little bit faster, but they're going to show you sort of the ideas that we go over in class. And this first one is about massing, and I'm going to show you massing in a couple different ways. The first one being drawing directly on the site, or drawing 2D elements and eventually bringing those into 3D, making them into 3D elements. So here I have the site. I'm going to go to a top view. Go away from those, and I set up the world so that the C-plane is on the bottom left corner, and you could just start drawing here. You could just draw lines or polylines if that's how you find you sketch best. You might want to be a little bit more accurate, so you could use something like a rectangle, to get early iterations. But rather than drawing on the site, I would recommend you draw somewhere off to the side by copying the site boundaries. This is 120 by 160, and you can iterate very quickly this way by drawing a rectangle. Let's copy it over using the gumball. We can draw another rectangle that's maybe a little bit different, or I can manipulate these. Rotate it. I can start to combine them, so I can copy this over. Let's move from here to here, selecting everything and trimming. So you can imagine that if you just take the site boundaries and you draw within it, it's just like sketching in real life with a few more options open to you. One of the examples that we went over in class is creating like an L-shaped building. So you can quickly draw two rectangles, select them both, trim them, and you have an L diagram. Now you can start to copy this down as well using copy, or dragging the gumball and using Alt, and then you can start to mirror it, copy it, and quickly create a few different sketches without having to get new pieces of paper and without having to destroy any of the past iterations. So as I explained in the live tutorial in class, I start with sort of an original idea. It stems from that, and then on one of these I would really like to explore different L variations. Then I would start to go down. Once you have these 2D drawings established, you can make them into 3D in a few different ways. You can see here I have some iterations that I've already drawn, but I'll show you how I would take these into 3D elements. One way is to take, if you have a closed line of curves, and you can check over here on the object type, you can use a command called Extrude Curve, and as long as your solid is on, you can draw it to a length, or so let's zoom over here. You can copy this over after the fact, and then you can extrude curve again and give it an actual dimension like 80 feet. And you can see one was sort of just guessing and one was actually typing in the dimension. You can also make planes out of these curves using a few different commands, but one of them is planar surface, and then you can use a command called extrude surface, and then this can be pushed up to a datum, or you can type in an amount if that's the way you want to go. So the boxes are pretty easy, or the rectangles are pretty easy, but what about something that's maybe a little bit more complicated? Well, I'm going to take all of my lines and I'm going to join them, and I can just select that and extrude that as a curve, and it's just as easy as taking the rectangle and extruding it up. The L you can do as a combination of boxes, so you could take one corner and another corner, and maybe you only go to that edge, and you can shift select them and use Boolean union because they're solids. I typically like to use merge all faces, really early on in the design process, so I have simple objects. But you can also, if you don't do that, you still have objects to iterate with. For instance, if I take this and I go up to that height, but I go here and I go to a little bit less of a height, now I could take this and iterate on that. If I join these by using Boolean union, it's just a little bit different of a modeling process. I might have to use move face. Oops. Can't type. To bring it down. Whereas if I didn't join them, I could just use scale 1D. So just keep that in mind. Try to stay fluid during the modeling process, but use whatever methods you're most comfortable with.